Rewind or Die is a very unique retro horror game in the Puppet combo lineup. From the eerie but somehow cozy environment to the tense gameplay. Today, we will be digging in and seeing what makes this game stand out in the oversaturated VHS horror game genre. The game follows a British man named Tony. Tony works at a cliché 90s video store. It's cliché because the game actually takes place in 1997. The game starts with Tony chilling at his apartment when suddenly his roommate gets a call about Tony having to go back to work. Before leaving, Tony doesn't forget to have a hissy fit as he was just about to eat dinner. He makes his way to the store and starts his shift. The video store is a very cozy and stereotypical 90s video store with cardboard cutouts of movie stars, shelves filled to the brim with movies, and of course, a porno movie section. During your shift, you get hints that something is wrong, like someone calling you on the phone and just breathing into it, Ghostface style. Also, the only thing on the news is that multiple people have gone missing and that every missing person was once a customer at the video store you're working at. After a while, a reporter named Timothy enters the store and asks you about the most recent disappearances that have been happening in this area. You tell him you don't know much and the reporter leaves. Now we switch to the reporter's perspective. Outside, the reporter records his report via cassette recorder and gets ready to head back to his office. On your way, you hear the sound of a vehicle crashing and go to investigate. You find the crash van, investigate the area, and find the decapitated pig's head when suddenly you are forcefully pushed to the ground. Now, using the hint of the pig's head, guess who just pushed you to the ground? You turn around to see a naked man with a pig mask. Just the thing you want to see. I also want to mention the striking similarity between this pig guy and Pixie from Manhunt. I don't know if their designs are meant to be similar, but I just thought that was cool. A few hours later, you cut back to Tony. As you're getting ready to close shop, the same naked guy with a pig head appears at the front window of the store. You try to tell him that you are about to close the store, however, he does not budge. After some time, he leaves, only for a cinder block to fly through the fucking window. While you barricade the window, you call your manager to tell him what happened. Shortly after, you get a phone call. You pick up the phone to hear a raspy man's voice saying that we will have fun tonight. First of all, hey yo! Second of all, if you're the killer, why the fuck would you even say that? Don't you want it to be a surprise? Anyway, after the person hangs up the phone, you hear screaming coming from behind the store. You quickly escape the store by running into an open vent. Cause of course, what store doesn't have a random ass open vent? You escape into a dingy alley. When you think that all is good, your good old friend with the pig mask is standing there waiting for you. He chases you through the alley in a scripted chase scene until the steel flooring beneath you breaks and you fall down. You are then captured by the pigman. Hours later, you wake up in a cage. The cage is filthy. There's human and animal meat scattered across, human skeletons, blood, and anything else you can imagine. Next to our cage, there's another cage. Inside, there's a woman. The woman is on her knees and is sobbing. Next to her is a decrepit skeleton of a person. We come up close to her and find a note on the ground. The note basically says that she was so hungry that she was forced to eat the person. It really shows how messed up the killer is and how he likes to torture and play with his victims. We find a way to escape the cage and enter the quote-unquote facility. This facility is a meat plant with an underground sewer system. The killer, whose name we find out is Slaw, does not hide what he does in his free time, as there are flayed people and decapitated limbs basically hanging around everywhere you look. As you are walking to the gates of the facility, you are suddenly ambushed by Slaw. He gives you one last scare before you stab him and he falls into a meat grinder. Tony then drops a nasty one-liner. The game has two endings. The ending you get is determined by the fact that you saved another survivor trapped in the facility and if you saved a dog locked in the cage. The quote-unquote bad ending is when you don't save either and you just leave the facility by yourself. The good ending is when you leave the facility with both the dog and the human. I don't really understand why the bad ending is bad since you still escape and you're alive. During my playthrough, I got the bad ending since I kind of accidentally burned the survivor alive and I couldn't find the key to the dog cage. There is also a post-credit scene that shows Keith, the boss of the video store we work at, being interviewed by detectives about the recent kidnappings. Keith says that he doesn't know anything about it until the camera zooms onto him and a silhouette of a pig's head appears on his head. The final reveal is that our boss was the killer all along. Overall, the story is pretty mundane, but at least there are multiple endings you can get. The main part of the game is exploring the facility and trying to escape. It's like most Puppet Combo survival horror games in the sense that you find items, solve puzzles, and run from the killer. Let's start with the puzzles. You spend most of the time blindly exploring the facility and finding random items. Shit like levers, valves, batteries, and of course, the one and only fuse. Cause what horror game wouldn't need a fuse to fix something? I really like that there's a funny interaction with the fuse box in the video store. If you interact with the fuse box, Tony says, "All looks fine. If this was a horror movie, there'd be a fuse missing." I like that this game is very light-hearted at the right times. In the downtime, for example, exploring the video store, there are plenty of hilarious interactions with other people and items. However, at the right times, the atmosphere is right to make you shit yourself. I also want to briefly talk about the killer. While you are exploring the facility, like in most survival horror games, Slaw is always roaming and following you. If he sees you, he will start chasing you. The problem with this is that every time he sees you and starts chasing you, chase music starts playing. Now, some of you might ask, well, why is this bad? The issue with this music is that it's not at all scary. It's just some rock track that doesn't fit in with the atmosphere and theme at all. Another really big issue is that the music never changes. I actually almost went insane listening to the same goddamn song over and over again because I got chased like 20 times. The looping music removes a lot of the fear and tension. I want to take the piss out of the killer even more by making fun of his running animation. Every time I'm in chase, I turn around and look at his goofy ass run. The best way to describe it is by imagining a cartoon character running in place. It just looks really fucking stupid. Overall, the gameplay is nothing unique, but it still works. The atmosphere and environment are where this game shines. I truly believe that this game has one of the nicest atmospheres/themes from the Puppet Combo library. I first want to mention the most important thing from the atmosphere in this game: the setting and visuals. Most horror games have very cliché and boring environments, like an abandoned house or some kind of barn. However, this game takes place in 1990s Britain. You wouldn't be able to tell that the game takes place in Britain if not for the voice actors, but it still looks very cool and unique.
I've been waiting here for over 10 whole minutes.
Yeah, sorry mate, we're a little bit short-staffed today.
It's totally unacceptable. I want to speak to your manager.
Listen bud, I'm in no mood for this tonight. Do you want your crappy porn flick or not?
keep your voice down. Here.
Adding to the uniqueness of the game is the color palette. The game uses a very warm and moody colors like yellow and orange. It makes the game stand out from the others in the genre. The voice acting is also a very neat addition. The voice actors, of course, are all British, and they do a pretty good job of making them sound as British as possible. I also want to praise the soundtrack. The soundtrack has all sorts of genres and styles of music. There is more basic music, like music coming from the radio in the video store, to boss fight music that's more up-temp and intense. The music helps set the mood of each level and place. The only music that I really didn't like is the chase music of Slaw, as I mentioned before. A staple feature of retro horror games is the VHS filters. Most retro games have VHS/CRT filters to make your experience look more like you're actually playing on an old TV. This game has that. However, there is only one filter available. The issue with that filter is that you basically can't see anything with it. I tried to play the game with the filter, but I legit couldn't read any of the subtitles or text as everything gets really blurry. So for my playthrough, I played without the filter, like a pleb. Overall, the atmosphere definitely carried the game to success, and without it, it would be just another generic slasher horror game. Rewind or Die is a pretty solid retro horror game. The mundane and repetitive gameplay is saved by the unique and refreshing environment and atmosphere. Thank you for watching today's video.